Let's just jump right into it. Today's explainer is about a truly incredible journey. We're going to look at the exact anatomy of resilience. Like, how do you take ultimate ruin, literally watching everything you've built get completely destroyed, and somehow flip that into one of the most recognizable global empires in history? We see this logo on every street corner, highway, and racetrack today, but getting there? Yeah, that was anything but guaranteed. So let's get started.
Okay, let's dive into this. What if getting rejected from your dream job was actually the best thing that could ever happen to you? I know, it sounds totally counterintuitive, right? Because when we face rejection, especially after pouring our heart and soul into something, it feels like a door slamming shut forever. It feels incredibly personal. But this isn't just a hypothetical question to make you feel better about a bad interview. That is exactly what happened to a man named Soichiro Honda.
To really grasp the sheer scale of the empire he eventually built, we've got to go back to the very beginning. Born in rural Japan in 1906, young Soichiro Honda definitely didn't start out in some high-tech corporate lab with bottomless funding. No, he grew up getting his hands dirty, helping his dad repair bicycles in a small local shop. But his vision went way beyond pedals and chains. Ever since he was a kid, he was just absolutely fascinated by machines. He wasn't just interested in fixing what was broken, you know. He was dreaming of building engines that could, quite literally, change the world. He wanted to create motion, speed, and just unprecedented efficiency. And he put in the heavy, agonizing work to make that dream a reality. This was definitely not an overnight success story. After years of relentless grinding, studying, and iterating, Honda designed a brand new type of piston ring. He was so proud of this piece of engineering. He knew, deep down, it was fundamentally good. So he took his design, presented it to the automotive giant Toyota, fully expecting they'd buy it, hire him, and give him his massive big break. I mean, he essentially laid his life's work right there on the table. But instead, they completely rejected him. A devastating, outright no. They literally told him his rings just didn't meet their quality standard.
Now put yourself in his shoes for a second. What do you do after a crushing defeat like that? You basically have two choices. Choice A is to just give up. Cut your losses, accept that an industry giant like Toyota obviously knows best, and walk away from the dream entirely. Maybe just go back to a safe, quiet life repairing bicycles. But Honda, he took choice B. He went right back to studying engineering. He didn't throw a tantrum, and he didn't just try to force the exact same flawed product down their throats again. Instead, he enrolled in a technical school, actively improved his design, put his head down, worked even harder, and eventually, after 2 whole years of grinding, he actually earned that contract with Toyota. It's a fantastic success story right there, isn't it? The underdog wins. But hold on, because honestly, this is just the prologue.
Just when you think the story has its neat little happy ending, disaster strikes on a scale most of us literally can't even imagine. He secures the contract, he builds a whole factory to manufacture these piston rings, and he's finally on his way. But then, World War II breaks out. A bomber attack completely destroys his factory. He rebuilds portions of it, completely refusing to quit. And then, as if that wasn't enough, a massive earthquake hits and just finishes off whatever remnants were left standing in the rubble. So, let's recap. Toyota's initial rejection, a devastating global war, and a massive natural disaster. His hard-won progress, the literal concrete and steel of his dreams, was wiped completely off the map. He actually had to sell his remaining manufacturing equipment to Toyota just to survive.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core difference between ordinary determination and world-changing resilience. Because most people, yeah, they would quit. And honestly, who could possibly blame them? The universe seemed to be sending a blaring, unmistakable message that this just wasn't meant to be. You've been bombed, you've been earthquaked, it's over, right? But Honda, he did the exact opposite. He didn't see the rubble as a graveyard for his dreams. Actually, scratch that. He saw it as a completely blank slate.
We really need to set the scene for what happens next, because the context here is absolutely everything. It's post-war Japan. The country is struggling immensely just to rebuild its infrastructure and its economy. Resources of all kinds are incredibly tight. Specifically, gasoline is extremely scarce and heavily rationed. Because of this, everyday travel was just a massive, exhausting struggle for the average person. Simply getting to the market or commuting across town was a grueling physical chore. Now, Honda looked at this struggling environment, this national exhaustion, and he didn't see despair. Instead, he saw a very specific, highly pressing problem that desperately needed a solution. And here is where the absolute genius pivot happens. Honda took what he already knew deeply, bicycles from his childhood and engines from his adult life. He scrounged up a supply of surplus generator engines left over from the war, and he just started attaching these small engines to ordinary bicycles so people could travel more easily without pedaling themselves to total exhaustion. It was simple, it was brilliantly affordable, and it was exactly what a resource-strapped, tired population needed at that precise moment in history. I mean, these motorized bicycles didn't just sell, they became incredibly popular practically overnight. People were literally begging him for them. And that massive, overwhelming wave of popularity brings us to a highly pivotal year, 1948. Really think about the timeline here. Just a few short years after his factory was literally leveled by bombs and earthquakes, after he had to sell off his remaining assets just to get by, this is the year he officially founded the Honda Motor Company. From literal ashes, scavenging surplus military parts in a ruined economy, to launching a brand new, official corporate enterprise.
Let's move on and see how this builds, because the trajectory from here is just spectacular. It started with those motorized bicycles, solving an immediate, desperate need. But that early success generated the capital and, more importantly, the profound engineering insights needed to fund the next frontier, fully fledged motorcycles. He wasn't just strapping engines to bike frames anymore, he was building dedicated, high-performance machines that completely revolutionized travel. And the massive success of the motorcycles? Well, that funded the ultimate jump to automobiles. He systematically climbed the ladder of complexity. The company rapidly became known worldwide for incredibly reliable engineering, continuous innovation, and high performance on both the street and the racetrack.
Which brings us to today. The scale of what Honda built is almost hard to wrap your head around when you remember exactly where he started. Today, Honda stands as one of the world's largest and most respected vehicle manufacturers. We're talking about producing tens of millions of motorcycles, cars, power equipment, and engines every single year across the globe. It is a staggering global empire. And I really want you to remember this. This exact same company producing millions of high-end, sophisticated vehicles today was birthed from scavenged bicycle parts in a ruined country by a guy whose first major professional experience was being told his engineering design simply wasn't good enough.
Take a second and look at this number. 99%. What do you think this number might represent in the context of building one of the biggest, most successful companies on the planet? Does it represent an astonishing global market share in small engines? Does it represent some peak metric for engineering efficiency? Unmatched profit margins? Well, here's what that number actually means, and it comes directly from the founder himself. Success is 99% failure. So the crucial point is, these weren't just inspiring words meant to sound good on a motivational poster or tossed around in a sterile corporate boardroom. Soichiro Honda's entire life proved this equation to be absolutely undeniably true. Let's just quickly recap exactly what that 99% failure looked like. Rejection by an industry giant didn't stop him. A world war literally destroying his factory didn't stop him. Natural disasters leveling the ruins and burying his machinery didn't stop him. Through every single devastating loss, he just kept building, he kept iterating, he kept improving, and he kept fiercely believing in his vision until the rest of the world finally believed in it too. He proved that failure isn't the opposite of success, it's a necessary ingredient. I want to leave you with this question to really think about today. The next time life tells you no, the next time you face a massive setback or lose something you've worked incredibly hard for, will you see it as the end of your story or the beginning of a much greater one? Remember Soichiro Honda, because sometimes rejection and ruin aren't the end. They're actually the exact foundation you need to build an empire. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.